How to say words correctly is what I want to address in this video. Specifically, I want to talk about pronunciation. Now, what is that? Pronunciation is the way in which the sounds of a word are said. Well, there are definitely differences in interpretation for how words should be said. There are also errors in pronunciation based on generally accepted ways of saying a word based on how it is spelled. We'll look at examples in a moment, but first, what I want to do is I want to clarify that I'm not talking about how different cultures will say some words, because, well, there's a lot of different variances in that. For instance, tomato and tomato, or schedule and schedule, route, route, just 3 examples. What I'm referring to here is when a speaker adds or ignores letters or syllables in a word, or they say the sounds in a reversed order. Now, why does this matter? It matters because saying words incorrectly may impact whether your listeners understand you. It could also impact your credibility depending on your topic and your intended audience. And if nothing else, for those listeners who do know that you're saying a word wrong, it may be a distraction. Ultimately, not all will notice, not all will care, but some will. And before I continue, I also want to acknowledge there could be room for disagreement in this topic. But in the end, whatever it is for you, I wanted to draw your attention to pronunciation as a topic to consider and a few example words. Then you can decide what is best for your audience. Also, before we dive in, I want to say that my own speaking here in this video may sound a little stilted as we go through the examples in a moment, but that's because I want to over-demonstrate for you, at least as well as I can. In regular speech, when I'm not demonstrating pronunciation, I think my words do flow a little more naturally. Okay, a few commonly mispronounced words. What I've done is I have separated the words that I'm going to share with you into 4 categories. These categories are words that have reversed sounds, added sounds, altered sounds, or missing sounds. So 4 categories. In our first category, which is reversed sounds, I've got 2 words I want to share with you. This is the first one, and a lot of people, for some reason, will say axe, axe, sort of like the implement you would use to break up wood, but they are reversing the K and the S, and it really should be ask, ask. The boy went to ask for directions in the store. Second word in this category is this one. And sometimes you will hear etc., etc. And we're getting a reversal of the T and the C, and in fact the C is being given a hard sound, etc., but it really should be et cetera, et cetera. An example sentence: games that use balls are tennis, baseball, volleyball, etc. Next category is a category of added sounds. 2 words here that are sort of similar. First of all, this one. And sometimes you will hear people say especially, especially. And they're adding a K or an X sound at the very beginning, especially. But this is not correct. And if you look at the spelling, ESP, and then onward, ESP is how it starts, and that should sound especially, especially, especially. A sentence using that word: I like all birds, but I am especially fond of ravens. And this is true. I am especially fond of ravens. The next word in this category is similar. It is actually spelt similar, at least it starts the same. And people will be saying escape. Escape, again, an added X or K sound there at the beginning, but it is spelled ESCAPE, and so that should be escape. A sample sentence: the robber tried to go down the alley to escape. Escape. Our third category, altered sounds. One word in this category, and it's this one. Many people are fond of saying nuclear, but there is no Q in the middle of nuclear. It should be nuclear, clear, nuclear. Basically, it's how it sounds. So we don't want a Q in the middle. There is no Q in the middle. Nuclear. The scientist had spent his whole life studying nuclear fission. Final category, missing sounds. 3 words. 2 are similar. First up, and many people will say Arctic. Arctic. But with that, the C is missing at the end of the first syllable. And it should be Arctic. Arctic. Next word is very much related, and people will say Antarctic. Antarctic, and that is not correct. We're missing a T at the end of the first syllable, and that C is also missing. It really should be said Antarctic. Antarctic. Using both of these words, the traveler has visited both the Arctic and the Antarctic. The traveler has visited both the Arctic and the Antarctic. And we're at the final word of this category and of this whole list, and it is this one. Many people I have heard say library. Library. I think I used to say library, but it was pointed out that there's an R in the middle there if you really look at the spelling. And so really what it should sound like is library. Library. A sample sentence: make sure you take your books back to the library when you are finished with them. Library. And that is the 4 categories of words that can have some mistakes in them when people are speaking them compared to how they are spelled. Just to recap, we've got reversed sounds, added sounds, altered sounds, and missing sounds. This list is not exhaustive, but perhaps will draw your attention to how you are saying your words. It's important to pronounce words correctly, at least as correctly as you can. It helps your listeners understand you, which you want. Depending on your speaking situation, it can also impact your credibility if you mispronounce keywords. And I'll also mention if you mispronounce names, you want to get those correct as well. If you are uncertain how to pronounce a word, what you can do is you can find out by searching it online through Google or YouTube. There are a lot of videos that will have just words and how to pronounce them. If it's a name you're not sure about, ask someone. Don't get caught saying words or names wrong. In the end, I wish you good luck, and as with enunciation and articulation, if you need to, take your time and practice how a word is said. Good luck.